Hello and welcome back. This is Coach Carol with the result of the first chapter in a new story about my ancestor, Enos Diddums and the Swing Riots. Now this, if you remember from previous videos, was constructed using iterative conversations with Claude 3.5. So what I've done here is I've copied the text that Claude provided into a Google Doc and made some changes of my own. And this is chapter 1, the Shoemaker's Rebellion. And in this one, it's talking about how he's writing a letter, which will change things in this era. And the actual letter, the transcript thereof, was posted recently in my Ancestry records. And here it says that this was a petition to King William IV for parliamentary reform, signed by some 170 men of the parishes of Wonston, Barton Stacey and Bullington in September 1830. And the signatures included those of my ancestors, Enos Diddums and Andrew Diddums. And I think there's another Diddums listed in there somewhere. Not sure. Yes, over here on the right, Charles Diddums. So the Diddums families were involved in the Swing Riots by petitioning the king to make parliamentary reform. The whole problem of the Swing Riots was to do with industrialisation, changing the way in which the farms were able to harvest their crops, and usually it would be done manually. But with the invention of threshing machines, this was taking away some people's livelihoods. And so the Swing Riots were actually all about how the locals took action and began to damage those machines. So we're getting a bit too deep into the story with this, but I'll go now to how we're going to refresh this story. We've gone through quite a bit of improving it for enhancing its narrative structure. We've looked at how it can, let me go back a bit. We've gone through enhancing narrative structure, engaging with a hook. And now I want to look at how you can begin to personalize the story. So a couple of ways in which you can do that. And one is to consider your audience. AI can suggest themes, characters, and settings that are likely to resonate with your readers. So an example prompt here is in the ancestral story of, and you put your name in, of your ancestor where you see square brackets. In the ancestral story, I would now like to rewrite it for a younger audience and appeal to those who like adventures set in history. So with that in mind, I'm back here in Claude, ready to make some changes to this first chapter. We have that finished chapter on the right-hand side showing from the last set of conversations, but now we're asking it to revise and change the style to suit my grandchildren. In the ancestral story of Enos Diddums, I'd now like to rewrite it for a younger audience and appeal to those who like adventures set in history. Let's see what it can do with this. It will take a bit of thinking, but it doesn't take very long. This is the beauty and advantage of using Claude. So it's doing that. It's adapting the story for a younger audience. It's rewriting the opening chapter with this new perspective in mind, and it's created this document that you'll see coming to the end over on the right-hand side. So it says that this version of the story uses simpler language and shorter sentences. It focuses on relatable elements like his tools and daily life. It introduces a child character to help young readers connect with the story. And of course, you would change that to the name of your grandchild. And it creates a sense of adventure and secrecy around his actions, maintains the historical context, but presents it in a way that's easier for children to understand. And it ends with a hint of a bigger adventure to come. And so this approach could make the story of Enos Diddums and the swing riots more engaging for your grandchildren. So let's have a look at what it's done over here in the actual document, scrolling to the top. And so now it's quite different in the way it reads. It's still relying on the information that I've fed it in the project knowledge. It begins as the secret rebellion of Enos the shoemaker, an immediate appeal to a younger audience. Enos woke with a start. The rooster hadn't even crowed yet, but he knew today was going to be different, special, maybe even a little dangerous. Then it goes on. Even has dialogue involved. Good morning, old friends, Enos whispered to his tools. Today we're going on an adventure. What Enos was writing wasn't a shopping list or a letter to a friend. It was something much more important and much more dangerous. He was writing a petition, a special letter asking the King of England to help the poor people in the countryside. And it goes on to describe what continued from that point on. So as you can see, much more dialogue involved, shorter sentences, and here we see the young person being introduced. A person has come to the door, and it's Tommy, and says, Pa says, can you fix these? He needs them for work today. Of course, Tommy, come in and tell me about what's happening on your farm while I work. As he repaired Tommy's father's shoes, Enos listened to the boys chatter about the farm and the village. Each word strengthened his resolve. He knew that what he was doing, writing this petition, might get him into trouble, but it might also change things for the better for Tommy and all the other children in the village. And there it finishes. So once again, to get a copy of this, you can do a couple of things. You can just copy the contents using this icon at the bottom to put it into your clipboard. You can also add this to your current project. I did this with the previous chapter, and now I'm adding this one, and it will appear in all of the listed documents that you have in this project. Remembering that Claude 3.5 uses projects in its paid version. You can also download the file, but I'm not sure that I can read an MD file, as it turns out. Another way to copy, of course, if you want all of the formatting to be the same as here, is you would scroll through the whole thing and use Control-C, and that will put it in your clipboard as well, but it would maintain all of the formatting of your document. And then you would put that into your Google Doc. And then you go to the next step. So waiting for the next step? Yes, that will be in the next video. So stay tuned, there'll be more.